Hi guys, well today I thought I'd tackle one of the long-standing statements that I've made on this channel, one of them being that I'll review Stargate Atlantis, that I'll review every James Bond movie, which I need to get back on, and also my thoughts on the movie The Invisible. Well, of course, as the title indicates, I'm discussing The Invisible. I've stated repeatedly that I like this movie, and it's kind of obvious given the fact that I've owned both a DVD edition of this movie and a Blu-ray, even though all the Blu-ray does is make the picture and sound quality a lot better. So I think a bit of background information is important to fully help you understand this video. So I first saw this movie when my dad rented it on DVD like 5.5 years ago, something like that. It was just as I was getting out of middle school, and I only caught the last third or so of the movie where Nick realizes Annie can hear him, and I didn't particularly care for it, but I did want to know everything else that happened in the movie, so I searched for it on here, and it was one of the movies I was able to find, and then I watched the movie, and I was glad to know the complete story, but I didn't particularly care for it. Then over the next several months, which eventually changed into the next couple of years because there was always periods in between, I got bored on here, so I just pulled up this movie and watched it again, and then each time I rewatched it, several months apart, I began to like it more and more and more, because one, I was getting a better understanding of the characters, but I was also gaining a better sense of myself, and I realized I could actually relate to these characters, and how the storyline, while simple, is actually pretty powerful for the right people, because, like, many of the people that don't like movies with a simple yet powerful story, such as Powder, Bicentennial Man, Shawshank Redemption, Slumdog Millionaire, they're the people that just can't totally appreciate the simple story, I think, in a lot of the cases. And given the fact that this movie isn't as well received as all the others, well, you can imagine why a lot of people just pass on it. But it took me a while, but I was actually able to appreciate the simple story because a bit of more background information. During middle school, I was bullied, mainly because I was a loner. There was nothing else. I was just a loner guy. No real friends, that kind of stuff. So middle school was torture for me, and then during high school, I gradually started to rebuild myself, because while I didn't really cause that much trouble, stuff like that, there were a couple of the social contacts that happened in the early half of high school that just didn't go over so well. I was able to patch it all up, but some of the first impressions just weren't good. And it felt like I was kind of an outcast for a long time, so that's me identifying with Pete for being bullied, and then Nick feeling like the world is kind of moving on without him, forcing him to go a few ways he doesn't want to, and then just after high school, I felt that I was being pushed down a road kind of similar to where Nick was at the beginning of the movie, where his parents weren't totally listening to him, so even more identification with him. And then there was Annie's character. Well, I've also had a slight issues with family trouble. I won't go into too much the details, but there were times where the family would be arguing, and it felt like that everything around me was negative, so I took a tiny bit of the heat. It's not as drastic as Annie, but I definitely think I've been there somewhat. So there you go, I've identified almost with every single character in here. So you can imagine how I've realized over the years how much I can relate to this movie. And then other stuff that I've liked about it, well, it's just mainly how much I feel for them. Given the fact that I relate to them, obviously you can tell that I would be feeling for them, but at the same time, you gotta be kind of impressed, at least from my standpoint, because all they're doing is just fairly simple stuff, because it's Nick realizing that his parents do love him, despite the fact that his mother acts bad in several situations. Then there's Annie realizing that there is some good in the world and that she is doing various runs. And then although Pete's story arc never really gets a full good conclusion, it's just that, he has a friend there who's trying to help him out, and that he also committed a wrong, and just... I like seeing stuff like that, and then there's just the way the several scenes are done, such as the bits where Annie's running away from the high school, and then they have Open Your Eyes playing in the background. I really love that scene, along with the last several minutes of the movie, where Annie, even though she's dying, goes to the hospital, has Nick guide her, all the lighting, all the positions of the characters. It's just really great for me. And then the music that they played in the background in several scenes where her character either undergoes a significant change, revolution, or advances the story, it's just really impressive. So, I know I haven't done exactly the best job of explaining why I really like this movie, but at the same time, there isn't so much to say, except I just get a lot from the movie. It's just like if you hate the movie Blade Runner, for instance, because... wait a sec. Never mind, I'm not going to grab this behind a couple layers, but... various people can say that it's a boring movie, but many people say there's actually tons to it. You just have to rewatch the movie. And that's why I picked it up, actually. I'm gonna rewatch it and then see if I think of it any better once I know what to look for. Just like this. I didn't like it the first time I saw it, but due to subsequent rewatches, it turned out to be a pretty nice movie. What would I rate it? I think critique-wise, I think I kind of have to jump it down to, even though I don't have a real rating for this, the area that's between 3 and 4 stars, but personally, I'd rate it 4.5 because it's a really good movie to me. Even though it does have flaws, let me tell you, I notice flaws like every time I watch the movie, and yet I still can't help but love it, because I feel for this movie. Now, let's mention the, footage problems for those of you who have seen the movie on here and then seeing what it looks like in a DVD or Blu-ray release. So I feel like all the footage that they cut out really hurts the movie because, for instance, making Annie's sequence running from the school shorter, it just ruins the effect. You don't feel for her in any way, then they lose bits of Open Your Eyes, and that's a great song. Then there's the part where Nick meets that old dude in the hospital who's having the same experience as he is. Well, that fails to set up part of the film's desperation, and also your mind isn't going down the same path Nick is. And without it, all you see is Nick walking down a street, realizing that no one can hear him, and then the music suddenly changes out of nowhere, and then you see him trying to commit suicide by jumping in front of a car. Come on! And then there's the cutting of the scenes with Nick's girlfriend that we see in the deleted scenes only. It's not in the longer edition of the movie that I've seen here. Well, we're supposed to realize that he has a relationship with this girl, but we only see her in the real movie in only 2 scenes, where she's talking to Nick at the beginning for ratting him out for the essay, and then where she's trying to seduce him at the party, but he walks away from her. What? If we add those other scenes, we get more dimension to the relationship. Sure, she ends her importance in the story within the first third of the movie, but it's helpful. It's more to add to why Nick is doing what he's doing. And then they cut out all the sequences involving Pete, because he tries to escape from the federal agent person, and I'm pretty sure one of the deleted scenes is Nick talking to Pete. So, this is a movie where every scene that was cut out of the movie actually has one heck of a big purpose in the movie. So just whoever the heck cut the scenes out in this movie really ruined the movie, because had those scenes been put in there, people would appreciate this movie a lot better and say that it makes more sense storylines. There'd still be flaws, but it would be better. Come on. I can't be the only person who thinks this. Well, I think that pretty much wraps my thoughts up on The Invisible. I really love this movie, and given the fact that I was able to talk for nearly 11 minutes about a singular movie, something that I haven't done in this channel because I realized there's very few movies that I could talk about like this movie, I think you get the idea. Hope you found this interesting, even if you don't like the movie.